Welcome, welcome. You're listening to the Drink a Little podcast, where we talk about exploring the world of wine and spirits while not letting it take over your life. My name is Kelly Doherty. I'm a joyful child of God and a certified life coach. I'm also a wine educator and wine and spirits brand designer. I'll show you how you can navigate your relationship with alcohol and how that mindset spills over into the rest of your life. We'll learn about the world of wine and spirits together, all while bolstering your confidence that you can have boundaries around alcohol and live your most amazing life. This is episode number 27, the Four Graces. And how this works is we taste a little wine at the top of the show and see where that leads us into talking about today, the world of navigating relationships. And today we'll do a little tasting and explore the 2022 Four Graces Pinot Gris from Willamette Valley, Oregon. And now, Willamette Valley, you may know it for Pinot Noir, and that makes total sense that Pinot Gris is grown there because it's actually the same grape, and the Pinot Gris is white. It is a color mutation of the Pinot Noir grape. And I'm saying Pinot Gris, and it's Gris. And what you may have seen more of is Pinot Grigio. And these are two names for the exact same grape. And they're just styles that are kind of born out of different regions. So Pinot Grigio is the style that is very light, fresh, lemon, limey, high acidity. You may have seen those commercials like Santa Margherita Pinot Grigio. This is Northern Italy Pinot Grigio. And yet, just because we have one grape doesn't mean you can't create it as a winemaker in many different styles. So Pinot Gris, Gris, is the more French-inspired style from Alsace, northeastern France, close to Germany. And it still has some of these same fresh characteristics, but a little bit more body behind it and more roundedness. I would think typically more pear, apple, and stone fruit than the lemon lime of a Pinot Grigio. And when wine people say stone fruit, what they mean are fruits that have those pits in them that are stony. So that's going to be peaches, apricot, plums. And so here you might get a little peach or apricot. That's what I'm expecting. So let's give it a little swirl and smell and taste. And I'd say this is pretty spot on what I was thinking. It's more of a medium body. So it's got more body than a Pinot Grigio. It's got that fresh pear. It's got the green apple. It's very vibrant, but has that apricot juiciness to it as well. And almost a little bit, that lime does come in on the back end, a little bit of lime peel. And I realize it's winter and I'm like talking about this fresh white wine, but it has a comfort to it. It has a heartiness to it. And if you like white wines, you probably don't care what time of year it is. And this would be a really good one with something like, roasted root vegetables or Brussels sprouts, something like that would be super comforting during this time of year. And I was thinking about this topic, which, the name is the Four Graces. And so a lot of our themes are give grace to yourself and others, and that's easier said than done. So today I wanted to give you actually 4 examples of how to be conscious when you're trying to shift things in any relationship. And why I'm talking about relationships on a podcast about wine and overdrinking is that overdrinking is never about the wine itself. It's not about the alcohol. It's about something else that you're trying to forget about or not deal with or avoid. It's about the job. It's about the money. It's about the relationships. So all fair game topics. And this is looking at grace in relationships because I believe if you can have peace and balance there, it's much more likely you can get peace and balance in your drinking. So we've got to work on these things from many angles. And so I've been reading from this gentleman named John Gottman, and he's a psychologist, a professor, a researcher, and so is his wife. So that's pretty cool. I wonder what those dinner conversations are. And he says that for a relationship, if a relationship is starting to have problems, there are really four horsemen of the apocalypse. Four things that could be happening in your relationship that will kill it. So that's what I wanted to share. So these can be avoided and give graceful alternatives to these four horsemen. So I'd like to define them and then give the alternative. And it's the four horsemen of the apocalypse versus the four graces. So I'm going to name the four horsemen right now just so you're prepared. And they are criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. So if you're seeing any of that in your relationship, these are areas to work on before they get out of control. And none of these sound good, but we've all been on the end, one or the other end in a relationship of these. And if we don't notice it and pull back and look for a different way to communicate, there is no balance in the relationship. So I want to give you the balance of those. So number one is criticism. That first horseman of the apocalypse is criticism in the relationship. Have you ever been at an event and you're in a group and someone criticizes their partner like right in front of you? It stings. It's awkward for everyone. And there's so much judgment attached to it. And I'm just going, does this person know what they're saying? It's out loud. And what they're doing is really wishing their partner was a different person, different way. And so what is the contrast to criticism? What is the grace you can give around criticism? And it's not that you're looking for the other person to be perfect. You're looking for the communication so you can grow together. And Gottman gives an example of this. He says, if you're running late for something and somebody says to you when you get there, you never think about how your behavior is affecting other people. You're selfish. You never think of others. You never think of me. It's very criticizing. It's very attacking. So we don't want to ignore that. If you're having feelings, you want to be able to express them. But the opposite way to express it would be putting it in a constructive complaint. Like, I was scared when you were running late and you didn't call me. I thought we had agreed that we would do that for each other. And that is a constructive complaint. And keep in mind, tone of voice does matter and all of these things, and intention does matter. But the point in the first horseman is to complain honestly and constructively is healthier than criticizing, which tears down and erodes at the relationship. Whereas when you shared your feelings and your thought that they had a deal, it's not tearing down, it's trying to build a bridge. So number two horseman of the apocalypse is what criticism leads to later. It's actually contempt. And contempt is almost like mocking someone. It's really that long-term fueled thing where you're having simmering negative thoughts about someone over a period of time. And when it comes to a head, you're attacked. Or you're the attacker. I don't want to presume here either way. Think about all the relationships in your life and what's going on there. And in this one, Gottman says it's the single greatest predictor of breakups and divorce. Contempt is. And it's far beyond criticism. It's when someone is made to feel worthless or despised. So what is the opposite of this? What is the grace that can be brought to this? And it's actually appreciation. It's very simple concept that's challenging to put into action sometimes. It's reminding yourself of your partner's qualities and finding gratitude for positive actions. And both contempt and appreciation are things that build over time. So it's not one thing you thought or one thing you did. It's systemic. So it can be turned around, but give grace with yourself that this may take time. If it's something that's cultivated over years, can it change overnight? It's possible. And it's possible that it might take a long time to rebuild. So the third horseman of the apocalypse that we want to turn into a grace is defensiveness. And this is typically in response to criticism. We've all been defensive at some point. We feel unjustly accused. We root around for excuses kind of quickly and fumble. And unfortunately, it's not an effective strategy. So we have to recognize the defensiveness is almost instinctive in nature. And so we have to have grace when people go to that first. And you have to look for it and you have to see it. That awareness is the first step to anything changing. So once you see it, the grace option of defensiveness is somewhat, non-defensiveness, but it can be so hard, right? You want to purposefully express acceptance of what someone else is saying, responsibility if it's appropriate, admission of fault if that's actually true, and maybe above all, just understanding of the other person's perspective. And I've done this, and tell me I'm not alone in this. I've done this where I'm defensive and I'm halfway down my argument road. And I realize that just because I started down that road to argument, I don't have to double down the defensive maneuvers. I can just turn back around and be like, okay, I'm in the middle of something. I'm going to totally shift. I'm going to say, I'm sorry, that was me. Maybe I was lazy. Maybe I forgot. Let me take care of it. Whatever is appropriate for the situation. Just because you started in one direction doesn't mean, even in one conversation, that you have to keep going in that direction. So give grace to yourself, take responsibility. Horseman number 4 of the apocalypse is stonewalling, and that's a response to contempt. And stonewalling is when someone who is supposed to be the listener on one side of a conversation is actually shutting down, withdrawing, stops responding at all. And we've either seen that or we've all done that at some point. So it's really hard to work with. So if you're the shutter downer person, you can actually say, I'm overwhelmed and maybe too angry to talk about this right now. And it'll be easier for me to work through this after I've processed a little. You need to distance yourself from the conversation. Like any conversation worth having a discussion over is something where you can take a break and you can take a walk, you can change your scenery and find your voice, write things out, do something soothing or distracting for a bit, and then come back to it. But don't stop the conversation and then never come back to it and pretend like nothing happened, because that's just an extended part of stonewalling. So the grace to that horseman of stonewalling is self-soothing, taking a break, spending time doing something that distracts you so that you can come back with thoughtful, considered ideas and words. And let's say you're not the person that shuts down. You're a person who has seen someone shut down. Your grace is to recognize it and maybe prompt them. They don't know, prompt them if they need to take a break and do something soothing in order to gather their true thoughts and calm themselves. I mean, think about how graceful that would be. These horsemen and these graces can come up in any relationship you're in. And it can be related to alcohol. It can not be related to alcohol. But these are just helpful tools where you can recognize what's really going on in a situation and you have the power to change it. So listen to yourself. See if these horsemen are trotting around through your life. And I think if you can start acknowledging that these are here and knowing that there are strategies that might be uncomfortable, but I think these 4 graces can shift someone onto the right track where they can open up just a little bit, try one of them, see what happens, try again, and keep please keep in mind that probably everyone you're dealing with is truly doing the best they can. Just because you heard of these Four Horsemen and Four Graces does not mean anyone else has. So give them grace, send them to the podcast, and give yourself grace in the back and forth of making these things work and seeing sometimes that they don't work. I promise if you continuously try these things, you will see the benefits in your ability to feel emotions, to take responsibility, and to grow together in any relationship that's going on in your life. And that being said, the last note is that this communication can absolutely be between you and you. The most important relationship you have in your life is with yourself. You are there from the beginning to the end, like it or not. And if you're criticizing yourself, you're in contempt of yourself, you're defensive with yourself, or shutting down, stonewalling your own thoughts and feelings, try these 4 graces on yourself first. That's what I have for you this week, my friends. And next week, we are going to look at another hearty wine. We're going to look at a Nebbiolo from northern Italy. I'm so excited to share all these things with you. And if you have any comments, questions, or anything, just drop me a DM on Instagram or Facebook. YouTube also, I comment there. And if you would love to give me a review, I would super appreciate it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the things. If you are working on creating more grace in your relationship with yourself and with the ones around you, I do teach to a deeper level. I have a one-on-one coaching program tailored to your needs where we cover how to stop overdrinking, how to love yourself for all the right reasons, and emotional well-being. Go to kellydoherty.com/cheers to learn more. That's KELLYDOHERTY.com/cheers.